Hello everyone and welcome back to Elisabeth Hogarth Designs. Today we are going to be taking a look at a glorious new collection from Craft Consortium, and this time it has been designed by the very talented Clare Therese Gray. You can see the lady herself on the back of this 12 by 12 paper pad, and she has illustrated it's almost like a North American themed collection of animals, including bears, squirrels, and you've got a wide variety of flora and fauna, and this great set of mountains, which I guess could be somewhere like the Rockies. The colours in here are sublime, and as always with Craft Consortium, you've got a few new goodies coming your way as well. So we've got decoupage papers, which are new for a Clare Therese collection. Many of you will have used them for the collections designed by Hales Couple-Ditch. We've also got some wooden embellishments, some pearl enamel dots, glorious washi tape, a wonderful 6x6 paper pad, and some really beautifully designed clear stamps. But I'll begin as always with the 12 by 12 papers. This is our 12 by 12 paper pad. You've got a variety of 40 double-sided sheets with 200 GSM papers. They're really high quality papers. Some of the pearlescent ones, the ones with the sheen, are 150 GSM and they're acid free, which means that they won't fade in time, and they also won't damage anything that you're working with, like your photos. So this is a quick flick of what they look like, but when you open up the paper pad itself, you've got this brilliant first page. Now, you will have seen some of these border banners before in the Hales Couple-Ditch papers like Nativity, and personally I love these because you can make fantastic backgrounds, or just for a mail card, the scene itself. So I'm going to dive straight in and show you. This is like your range of mountains. It could be somewhere in Scotland, but for some reason these remind me of films like from Virginia, or seeing scenes in the Waltons. That's kind of my memory of those types of programs. But the colours, there's like a slate grey and a really subtle evergreen that goes with this really sublime blue, and then the touches of white just highlight everything, and I just think it's magical. The depth to it is so clever. It's a really, I must commend Clare Therese on her quality of illustration, and of course Craft Consortium on the way that they put it together. Their interpretation is what brings us these beautiful papers. You've then got the scene, a bit like in Yogi Bear. I'm sorry to my American viewers, I haven't been to America. Mine is very much a view of things that I see on the telly, and things that remind me of these types of things are a scene in the Waltons, or you know, when Yogi Bear comes along and you see all the trees drawn and everything. So yeah, it's a little bit stereotypical, but I hope you'll forgive me. And then we've got this glorious scene where you've got a wider range of birds, and then really beautifully illustrated fungi, and then you've got your signpost to the woodland trail. This is the set of additional topper elements, and I'll show you something a little bit later on that means you don't necessarily have to cut into this. But if you do want to, you can use a scan and cut, because the outline, the line on the outline is quite strong, so that something like a scan and cut will pick up on it. You can of course fussy cut them, so I think that's a pretty good start. And then when you turn over, you've got another page of brilliant trees. So you've got your pines, but the greens are so well done. It's almost like a pastel green mixed in with a traditional evergreen, and I love the colour combination. So you can fussy cut these, and then look, this is another look at these fantastic banners. So you could cut these down and they would become a landscape or a DL card, or you could use them as a border to a larger piece or a piece of scrapbooking. I think they're so good that if you could afford to, you could buy enough of these to do a border, like a dado border, in a boy's bedroom. So then we move on to, we've got more trees, and again they're beautifully designed, and you can see all the mountains in the background. So again, you could cut these into strips. They'll just make glorious borders for a card, and I'm half thinking of trying some of these for Christmas cards this year, because really it's like a pine tree. So I'll give that a go and I'll let you know how I get on. Then you've got the bear, you've got the big brown bear, and as vast as these creatures are, this particular one does look like a friendly bear. Can you see him having a conversation with the squirrel? So, of course, you've got to be wary of them, but there's a lovely touch to the face that makes you think that they are quite friendly bears. You know, the forefathers to the very much loved teddy bear. So then we've got the father bear with the baby bear sitting on its back, and then again lying down and having a conversation with its woodland friends. The colours make them softer images than you would ever think that bears and wildlife creatures could be, but this is how clever I think Clare Therese is. Her subtlety and the way that she puts colours together are as equally as good as the quality of her illustrations. So we've got the fungi here with a white background, and then you can see the difference that the darker background makes, and then you've got really beautiful additions of tiny flowers like the forget-me-nots and the coordinating blue butterflies. So as you can see, we've gone for the darker backgrounds again, with a pop of colour with these splashes of blue and splashes of pale green. Then you've got flowers like your primroses and really beautifully illustrated butterflies and moths. I've noticed that Clare Therese is drawn to these types of pale blues, and they're almost like porcelain blues, and this is very much, you could see from my jumper that I'm also drawn to these colours, so it could be one of the reasons why these are firm favourites with me, these types of papers. But I just think that the quality of the illustrations with all the different florals is superb. So if, like me, you enjoy working with these types of papers, then you are going to absolutely adore this collection. More flowers, again in like a peachy pink and a very subtle blue. You can imagine these as wallpapers, but I think they will make perfect backgrounds for cards. You can also make boxes and larger projects. They're excellent for scrapbook pages. So they really are versatile designs to work with. Another set of beautiful florals and coordinating almost splashes of white on a very uplifting pale blue. We then move back to the characters within the collection, and this time we've got some fishes where the bear has unfortunately caught his dinner. And then you've then got the baby bear sitting on the back again. So these are possible to cut out. This is a 12 by 12 papers, so you can cut them out and use them as embellishments in their own right. And we haven't seen this chap, but look at the owl. Isn't he glorious? And then you've got your bluebirds, they're almost like jays. And then this brilliant, very effective and realistic piece of wood. So you could cut out the owl and then just have him sitting within one of the knots of the wood. So that's very quickly going through the 12 by 12. So you've got more of the additional toppers on the back here. And again, I'm very lucky to have the 6 by 6 papers as well. So they are exactly the same designs. Let's quickly flick through there so you can see all the different floral papers and the bear and the owl popping up again. And then when you take the additional toppers, you can see how the size of this is perfectly in proportion to the size of the 6 by 6. It might even be possible to coordinate these 6 by 6 elements in with the 12 by 12 scenic strip, so it's well worth, if you can afford it, buying the 12 by 12 and the 6 by 6. So now that we've seen those, let's move on to the first of our embellishments. I'm very excited about these because I haven't seen these before with the Clare Therese collections. So these are your decoupage elements. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 designs with toppers in the traditional decoupage that we know and we enjoy using. And then you've got these elements which mirror the additional toppers. So these can just be popped out and used as toppers, which means you don't have to cut into your 12 by 12 papers, which I'm really excited about these. They're on high quality cards, so really easy to pop them out and then use them on your projects. These other ones are slightly different, where the layers form part of the topper, but as I've shown you in previous videos, you don't have to use all 6 layers on this one main topper. You can take the elements and use them in different parts of your card. So here the bear is lying with his friends. Then he's looking up, I think he's looking up to the moon. Another cute scene with his friends back to back and the little bunnies asleep. And these are all taken from the illustrations in the papers, so everything will match up. And then I like this one as well, where they're all sleeping together and then the little bird is singing them a song. Moving on, we've got some wooden toppers. I've got a small selection of them, but I'm guessing that you're going to get 10 in a pack. Well, no. Yeah, you're going to have 10 in a pack, and I'm guessing that they will mirror the decoupage sheets that you've already seen. We've got one of my favourites, the enamel dots in coordinating colours of your blues and your pale creams and browns. And then we've got these really beautiful metal charms. And can you see? Let me just move this out of the way so that you can see. It's the bear. So you've got 15 of those, which will really finish off your project. We then have a duo of washi tape, and when you pull them out, very high quality. These are the scenes that you can see. So you can use these as a background piece, and don't forget you can cut into them, so you can put the washi tape onto a piece of card and then cut it out, and that's another way of using them. But you've got your 2 rolls of washi tape. Then we have a great set of stamps, all featuring our friendly bear. So they're quite large. I would say they're around about 5 centimetres in height, so all you need to do is stamp them out in brown ink, and you've got great images to use in your card making or in your scrapbook projects. So you've got your squirrels and the birds, And then we've got that fantastic owl who I'm rather partial to. And you can see that these images here are mirrored in the decoupage. So if you don't like stamping, by all means buy the decoupage, or if you prefer stamping and colouring in, then this set is well worth investing in. But I'm lucky because I can get to play with both. So I think what I might do is a little bit of masking off and trying some scenes with these bears, and then putting them onto the landscape scenes, and then you've got the tree. So again, I'm thinking I could make a Christmas tree with this, because these can be used at any time of the year. I think that they will work well for mail cards, but if we soften them up a little bit, they can be used for any member of the family. But I think the quality of the colours and the illustrations are going to make them a really worthwhile set to invest in. I've been quite taken with the illustrations of these stamps, and I haven't really coloured anything like this before. So when I was having a crafting hiatus, I decided to try some other techniques, and this is it's like a form of no line colouring, and I'm not an expert, I'm not a colourist, but I thought I would show you what I did, and if you get any inspiration from it, then that's fantastic. The only reasons I picked this ink, it's Gina K Designs, is because of this colour. I wanted a paler colour than the brown outline of the bear, because in the end the outline will disappear. This happens to be an archival, so it does dry quickly, and it's very good for coloured pencils and watercolours, which is what I'm going to do. So I have had a practice already, but I just want to show you how well these stamp out. It's quite a time consuming process. Personally, I wouldn't be able to batch make these, but it's really enjoyable little craft to do on a dreary November day. So I'm adding the ink firmly to the stamp. I get questions about what's good to stamp with. I use Clare inks a lot, but this will work if you take your time with it. So I've got a stamped image to the paper, and I'm in no hurry to lift it up, so gently press the image onto the paper and then lift up, and you've got this fabulous image that you could use on its own. Obviously it's paler to things that you normally would use, but that in itself, because of the quality of the stamp and of the design, is brilliant. This happens to be a paint on paper. It's Claire papers. I don't know why I came across this, and it works for me. I buy this in Hobbycraft, and it's 250 GSM. You can use, I got it because it said you can use multi-techniques on it, and I have to say that it does tend to cover everything that I want to do. So that's the type of paper that I'm working on, because it will take water. And these are some of the images that I've already painted. To colour these images, I've actually used my oxide inks. You can use distress inks, you can use watercolours, it's the mediums that you have. Don't go out and buy anything special. What you're really going for are shades, 3 shades of one colour. So I've got my paler colours here, and then I've got my highlighter colours, and then my darks. So this is your walnut stain, your antique linen, your frayed burlap, your vintage photos, and then for the outline, just to lift the background, I've used a couple of blues, which are the tumbled glass and the speckled egg. I've got a mixed media mat. This one happens to be from Lisa Horton Crafts, but you can get them from other companies. I really like these. They're like silicone mats, but all I've done is squeeged the ink onto the mat, and this is a couple of days old, but every time you add water, it releases the colour in the inks again. So this will stay as my palette for a couple of days until I've had enough of colouring these in. So these are the images that I've worked on so far. This was the very first one, and I realised that I was using too much ink. I've managed to pull it back, and I will use it as an image, but personally I prefer this paler effect, so I've gone for the light, the medium, and then I've added a little bit of pencil to outline it and to bring in the details. And then I moved on to the smaller animals, which weren't quite as successful, so I ended up adding pencils to the outlines of these. I will admit my eyesight is not the greatest for this type of work because I'm long-sighted. I wear varifocals, so I do use a magnifying glass, but I'm going to attempt to show you and give you a general idea of how you can tackle these if you want to, because many of you do have the oxide inks. I've used a simple watercolour brush. I like these because I can control the amount of water that I'm using. So you've got your water in a barrel, right at the beginning of painting. Let me show you. I will simply squeeze the barrel and bring myself a tiny drop of water. It's so tiny you can barely see it. It's like a raindrop. And then I will activate my brush, and then I will bring in the colour. And I like using it that way. Even that is too wet for me, so I will take some water off so my brush is virtually dry, and then go back in again, and then I will be ready to colour. The thing to remember about the Craft Consortium stamps is that you can use the image, they go to the trouble of colouring up the images. The stamps themselves aren't coloured, but the acetate is, and this is what I use to help me with my shading. So you can see on here that you've got your darker outline, and then you've got the areas where the shadows are coming in. So you can imagine that this is darker, and as you go around the bear's body, you've got it from medium, and this is where the light hits it. Going to look at how we bring in the shades of brown from the dark through to the medium tones to the light on this bear's body. So we're starting off with a really pale colour wash. So I've loaded up my brush, and all I'm going to do is cover the area. It's almost like a tint of colour that I'm adding here, and I'm using the tip of my brush, and I'm sweeping the tip within the lines that this stamp has left behind. So where the lines go down, my brush strokes will go down. So I'm trying to use the lines and the design that the illustrator has given me. Craft Consortium are really good with their stamps, that they leave you in the areas that are shaded. So again, the lines are going down, so my brush is going down. As you can see, this is a slow process, but it's very mindful. And if you don't feel like making a card, or you don't feel like crafting, then this type of technique is a great way of focusing and trying to improve your artwork. We'll work on the main bear first. So we've covered, and then we want to go in with the same shade of brown, and this time I'm going to add the warmer tones that you can see here. So I'm going quite dark, and with any luck it will blend in to the colours that I've already added. I'm going to add a little bit more ink. I want to be a little bit bolder. No more water, just more ink. So we've got darker around the top here, and then this is our shadow. Even for me this is too much water, so all I'm going to do is just blot away. I just don't want too much colour going on at once. And don't be afraid to lift the colour away, because you can always add to it. And then we just want to outline, and I'm using the stamped lines. They're almost like a feathering effect. So we've got darker down the back leg here, and then under the belly it's darker, so we want a touch more ink. And again the lines are there, and this time they're sweeping upwards, so I'm going with those lines that are sweeping upwards. And then I want to bring a little bit of colour here, because we've got lines again that have been left. And then we've got darker under the legs here, but not all the way across. Darker going up the body here. And then we add a little bit more ink again, because we've got another darker area here. Again the lines are there for you to follow, but you'll find because you have used a very pale ink to stamp with, that it forms part of the image. So rather than when we're usually stamping where we have the darker outline and we're almost colouring in, the stamp outline this time becomes part of the artwork. So I definitely need to work on this some more, but I am enjoying the process of making my brain work in this way. And we've got a little bit more darker under here. The lines that I'm adding are minute. I'm using the tiniest part of the brush. If you're an artist, you can probably do this with no thought at all, but I am learning as I go that if I go slowly and steady, then I can keep adding layers of colour, and with any luck I'll end up with an image that I'm happy with. So we're going in with a little darker ink, so we're going into the centre of the ear here, and we just add a little bit of colour here, and we just highlight the bear's eye, but we won't add any colour to the nose because we want to work on that. So you can already see that the shadowing is coming in. And this, I'm going to go in with the paler brown, which is the antique linen, and again it's only a wash, and I'm going to bring in this lighter area here, going over the top of the original darker walnuts, but trying to blend in the contours here, and just moving the brush in the same direction as the stamp marks. I want a little bit more darker going up here to give the illusion that the muscle on the leg is there. And then we'll come up a little bit here. I'm not really happy with this part. This is where I added too much ink at the beginning, but I think what I'll do is I'll leave it to dry, and then I will come in with a pencil and try and redefine this area. I do find it easier working with the magnifying glass directly over the paper. It's just the way that my varifocals work, but I'll do my best to keep bringing in the colour. There we go. And I'm just going to bring in that paler antique linen onto the snout here. It's barely any colour at all, and then I'll leave a touch of it white. So let's move on to the younger bear, because I'm going to leave the main bear to dry a little. Just check we've got, yep, we're okay. So again, we're going to colour wash, and we're going downwards, and we've got the tip, there we go. We're using the ink that is already there just to sweep in the colour. So again, a little touch of darker ink, and this time the shadow is coming down the back here. Try and make your brush strokes slightly feathery, and then we've got the leg bending round here, and a little bit of the shadow where the stamp marks are, and then we're coming round the back side here, just curving it around so that the two meet. I also want to add, let's add a little bit more dark. I want to add a little bit more shadow under here and around the edge there. The back leg is darker. Let me just very gently bring my brush in. You can move the paper. It's probably easier if you move the paper. And as I say, I find it much easier to be working above the image rather than to the side of it, but you'll find your own way of working. And we want a little bit darker in here. There we go, and then we've got the ear and the eye. So I'm going to leave both of those to dry for a little bit, because I want to add slightly more definition, but you'll get a better effect if the paper here is dry. So we'll give it 10 minutes or so, have a cup of tea, and then I'll come back. The next thing that I'm going to do is to add a very faint brown line around the edge, not on all of it, but it's almost like the final part of the shadow, just to try and bring in a little bit of definition. So we've got where the darker paint was, we've got the flicks of brown outline, just to try and give that illusion of light and shade. You need dark and you need light to try and make these images as realistic as possible. We'll add a little bit more colour think I've slightly lost the definition of the chubbiness here of the bears, but I've gone over the line of the stamp, so I might need to look at that with a little bit more paint, and the ink hasn't quite, my blending hasn't been so good on this one. But as I say, this is all a process. The parts that I do like are the way that the haunches curve round. So I feel like I've got this area here better than on my original one. So, you know, this might be something that I come back to again. I'm just going to try and bring in. And we've got, this is the front leg, and then there's a second one around it. I'm going to leave it there because again I want it to dry. I'm going to need to come in with a darker colour because I'm not so convinced that I've done this part as well. But this was the image that I did working in my usual conditions, and I'm happier with the finish of that one. So I hope that has given you a few ideas as to how you can use your inks and how you can use the stamps. Please let me know in the comments below if you do give this a try. I have really enjoyed working with In the Forest. The new elements with their decoupage sheets and their landscape pages have really helped me to create and make a variety of different things. The first of them are the stamps and the colouring in that I showed you slightly earlier in the video. This is the topper that I worked on, and all I've done is to make the bear feel like it's in place. It's added a slight drop shadow here and a sentiment, and then backed it onto craft card. Here's a similar one. And then you remember how I said to you I felt like the bear was looking up at the star. So it's a very simple star in the sky, and then a stamp that I found in my collection. But I've kept everything with these samples quite neutral, and I've based most of them on craft card because I felt it gave it a more countryside feeling. So moving on from the smaller cards, we've got a landscape card here, a DL card, and this was simply taken from that front page with these 3 landscapes, and I took the section that appealed to me the most, added my own sentiment and some sparkle, and then backed it onto some coordinating cardstock. I actually wanted to bring out this colour here because then that makes the rest of it pop, and again I've popped it onto a piece of craft card. This is a pretty simple make. This is taken from a snow globe that you can buy in craft stores. I get these in Hobbycraft, and then I've made my own background. It's quite hard to photograph, but I've actually got, I think you can see it there, there's the woodcutter's home cut out of the papers, and then I've added one of the decoupage sheets with the bear and the little friend on top, so you give it a good shake, and I thought that would make quite a good little gift for somebody. I did start thinking about gifts for Christmas, so this isn't a Christmas set, but I thought these made good gift ideas. And so this was an empty candle box, and then I adapted it. Again, my apologies for being able to show you. I'm having to work in a different light now. The evenings have drawn in, but hopefully with any luck you can see that the mountain scene is in the background, and then I've added some twigs and some acorns, and then I used the tiny decoupage elements in different scenes within each one of the boxes, And then once I had got the scenes within the box, I added the acetate cover that came with it, and then I've added some of the wooden embellishments to the top, sealed it all in, and then added some of that navy blue decorative floral paper. In hindsight, I could have added lights to the back of this, but that would have meant having to stop and purchasing them. So this is what I've ended up with. So it's quite a nice little piece of mixed media. It's a really simple idea is to make my own notebook. So you can get these shopping list type books in Poundland and places like that. So I took the landscapes, so you imagine you've got your 3 landscapes here, and I actually cut it in the portrait to take out the pieces that I wanted, and then I made a matching pencil which I've attached to it. So again, you can easily write yourself a shopping list. Nice easy make, but it looks a little bit special when you're working with those papers. As I mentioned earlier, I really enjoy working with these decoupage sheets. I think having these with the Clare Therese collections are really going to enable you to make so much more from the paper pads. So I matched these up with the 12 by 12 paper pads. So to get as much from it as I could, I took the main piece as the background of my card, and then I took one of the layers and decoupaged that up to make a really pretty little card. And then to match it, I took the extra piece of the decoupage here and I created a tag. So you can see both of them have been layered up, but you're getting more for your money rather than using all these elements on one piece, which of course you're welcome to do. I've now got a gift bag with a tag with a coordinating card. I was enjoying making these, so I carried on and I made, here's my next card. So again, it's a lovely little scene, and then this time you've got the 6 by 6 papers on the background, and then I used some of the 12 by 12 papers to wrap up my gift box, which was, would hold something like a bottle of wine. And then I've made another matching tag. As I say, these aren't winter collections, but I just thought if you add a little bit of sparkle, this makes quite a manly type of gift. My last gift wrapping idea was to take some simple brown paper and do a folding technique so that I've got pockets on the front of the box, and then I've added another tag here that coordinates with the card, and use the wooden embellishment to add a seal to the top to hold everything in place, and then I've got the washi tape holding it all together at the bottom. So it's a really personalised way to wrap your gift. And there again is the matching card. So you've got a decoupage tag and a decoupage card. As always with this type of video, I'm going to end by giving you another quick look at all of the cards and the projects that I was able to make with this collection. There really is so much that you can do with it. This was just the tip of the iceberg. I've got plenty of 12 by 12 papers left. I can see me using this for all members of the family, and I think that is the benefit of having these kind of gender neutral collections, because let's face it, mail cards are hard to make, but the colours on this are quite feminine, but they also appeal for more masculine makes. So there we go, there's In the Forest. I really hope that you will enjoy this collection as much as I have. As always, if you have any comments or any questions, please leave them for me below and I will do my best to help. Thank you ever so much for spending some time with me today. I wish you all well, stay safe and happy crafting. Bye bye for now.